Are we gonna start with just 3 characters then?
Fuck it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So no sign of one of our wayward wanderers, Leon. We have Lucy turning up a little bit late, which at this point is going to be only a little bit late because we started fucking massively late.
Yeah, damn work. But yeah, so apologies for starting late. Obviously multiple issues, problems. You name it. Everything goes wrong all the time. It's me. I'm here. Of course, it's going to go wrong. So
That is very true.
Yeah, so after the nostalgia, 15, 20 minutes, however long we were going.
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
No, 3 minutes.
Ah, damn.
Yeah.
That seemed like a lot longer. Anyway, hello, welcome to D&D.
Are you sure?
I have to remind us that that's definitely a D&D character sheet. Anyway, so we're going to start with 3 characters.
Just so you're aware, today that stands for Dungeons and Dipsticks.
No, dipstick.
I think he can constitute multiple dipsticks.
Oh, yeah, no, I could. I reckon I could.
So, last time, this wonderful group, minus 2 of the other people, managed to complete a crossing of the sea from one continent to another. And they have landed in the very, very Asian continent of Montai.
Yes, of Weeaboo Land.
Weebland, that is correct.
Weebland.
So, they have made their trip from Aki Harbour. They have picked up some exotic fruit and vegetables, including bananas. And they have now made their way to the main city itself of Siltai. They have caught a glimpse of the large castle that is in the centre of it, surrounded by the city of various very Japanese and Chinese style buildings, and a large wall that runs all the way around Siltai. Nothing compared to the wall of Obsidia, of course, but it's a fairly reasonable wall on its own. I mean, climbing it doesn't look like it would be easy, but it's not fucking colossal.
Impossible.
And as you've been travelling, you have been heading up towards what looks like the main gates.
Mm-hmm.
So the gates are large wooden. Two circular pillars stretch up the sides of the gate, and it has a beam across the top, very reminiscent of the arches that you'd see in a lot of the Japanese pictures and things, including that one that lasted through one of the wars. So it's very reminiscent of that one. I can't remember what it's called, but as you're coming up, the gate is currently closed, and there are some guards outside it. Outside these particular gates, there are 4 guards.
Ooh.
As you get closer, you can see the armour that they wear is very different to the plated armour you'd see as commonplace with a lot of guards in places in the first continent. I fucking already forgot my continent names. I'm so good at remembering my own world, eh?
Let's see who can get there first. Valir?
Valir, yeah.
Aha!
So the continent of Valir is a lot of very much more medieval style plate armour. You've got the variances with Elven, Dwarven and Orcish that you do also see with reasonable commonplaceness. This is an armour type you haven't seen before. It's basically what you imagine traditional Japanese samurai armour would look like. It's a little bit more streamlined.
Lamellar.
Yeah, lamellar. It's a little bit more streamlined. It's not like super thin and form-fitting, but it's less bulky than some of the more ornate suits you'd see.
I want it.
Oh, ingenious.
As you approach, the 2 guards more towards the outside of the gate step forwards, and one of them looks up to who would be at the head of the column. Do you think?
Well, I'm the ranger. Rangers lead the way.
Okay. And you'd be on your dog, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so he looks down a little bit to where you are, and says, "Good. What time was it last time? It's about."
We set up camp to start out first thing in the morning.
Every morning.
Yeah,
Late-
so
late
probably
morning,
about late
Yeah,
morning.
morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he looks down to you and says, "Good morning. What business do you have in Silthai today?"
Good morning. We're with a trade caravan.
Okay. How many caravans?
How many wagons do we have?
I think it was 4 caravans.
Yeah.
4, yeah.
And then
Yeah. Four caravans and number of other people on foot.
Okay, so he takes a look and sort of verifies the numbers and such.
We've come a long way.
Valerian caravans?
Yes.
Haven't had a delivery from Valer for a little while, so I believe it'll be much needed.
Excellent. Which way to the market, my good man? I've not been to the city before.
It'll be straight ahead through the gates once you're inside. You won't miss them. We will need to check everyone before they come in. So if everyone could make sure that they come past one of us.
Checking for what, may I ask?
We check your strength of character.
Oh.
People of a evil nature are not allowed within the walls.
understood.
Mayor?
Yeah.
So he takes a few moments and he holds his hand out. Doesn't touch you. He takes a few moments and he does functionally cast something.
Mm-hmm.
And once he's done so, sort of, you may pass. And
Yep.
the other 3 guards and him then periodically come to each of you.
I'm
and
going to
caravan
dismount,
leaders.
take the hood off, and wait patiently by the horse for them to come to me, or
Yeah.
until we move up to them.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say I'll dismount because obviously it's not it's just going to be silly. You're just sitting here. We're in traffic, man.
Okay, so those of you who do dismount, they sort of bow a little bit to you and then proceed to check you. Once they've checked through everyone, they let them pass. They don't stop you for any reason.
Well, as they're checking me, I was wondering if it was possible to get a list of the laws of this land. As we are new here, we don't know all of the laws. I want to make sure that none of us break them.
Certainly. I don't believe we hold anything of such here. We're simply on guard duty.
Of course.
If you pass by any of the guard houses, they should have something to that effect.
Okay, and where would the nearest guardhouse be, please?
The nearest one would be. You'll find it just past the market. It will be, as I said, straightforwards. Will be where you find the main market. A little ways past that, you find the first guardhouse.
Thank you. So I remount my horse and get going.
So as everyone gets sort of scanned through functionally, when they get to Barefoot, they note that he has a small affliction, nothing serious, just a minor disease.
Stigmata.
At which point they say to him, "If you would like, we can remove that for you." I'm certainly sure that would be rather nice. Yes, I wasn't aware I had anything affecting me. It's like, oh, it's nothing seriously detrimental, but it's something that could develop. Oh well, yeah, certainly, yes, please then. So the guard that obviously was scanning him through takes a few moments and again casts something. If anyone wants to roll,
Arcana?
no, this one would be religion. So if
Right.
anyone wants to roll religion, they can.
I wish to use my slow fall reaction. I'm joking.
Say it fails due to there being no trigger.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like no.
15.
Okay, so he's basically just cast a very minor sort of removed disease. Whatever disease it was, obviously wouldn't have been exceedingly bad, but it was just something that they picked up and noted in passing, and they sorted it and removed it for him.
Hobbit's foot.
The hair just recedes.
It's probably AIDS. He has been fucking a lot of
I wouldn't call that a minor disease.
Oi!
Yeah,
Why was that remark?
wasn't dire AIDS.
Yeah.
That would be serious. I remember there's good AIDS and bad AIDS.
But you know, as we're going through them, they're like, they didn't. Okay. Let's see how this goes. They didn't pick up me. As we get through, I'm like, they didn't pick me up, but they picked up.
You'd probably be aware that doesn't count as a disease, it's a curse.
But if they're divine, they should be able to get curses as well.
Maybe they don't care.
It's either they may not have known, you can't be sure, but you reckon it's either they may not have known, or whatever they were using to scan doesn't include curses.
Yeah,
But still, I'm like,
yeah, because
okay.
obviously in character I wouldn't have a fucking clue. But on an out of character note, you know, do they do anything when it comes to Macaria?
No, she doesn't flag up as evil, so.
Okay. Yeah, again, like I said, it's not in character. I'm just out character. I'm curious.
Yeah, functionally, and again with your religion, so you get they were basically using detect alignment, and they were checking people's actual alignments using that. If anyone would like to also roll, in fact, just roll flat intelligence.
Flat intelligence? Oh no. 6.
17.
7.
Okay, so you guys aren't really sure, but based on the fact that obviously you were wondering why they wouldn't pick you up, the reason that you reckon the likelihood that they picked up a disease over a curse is because most curses don't tend to be contagious in any way. If a curse is on someone, it's usually on that person, and the only way to put a curse on someone else is either to transfer it or to curse another person.
Yeah.
Whereas diseases can spread and be contagious.
Well, lycanthropy. If you bite, you can bite someone and they'll become a werewolf.
But she still has to actively do something to force
You have to
change.
bite them and not kill them.
Yeah.
Which is the hard
Whereas someone with some kind of disease, all they have to do is walk past people, and if it's an airborne disease, they can infect any number of people. And
cooties.
Oh no.
Dire cooties.
Oh no.
so as you step through the gates for the first time, you see a lot of the buildings up close and personal.
Ooh.
Now, rather than a lot of the different buildings of a lot of different materials and different sort of qualities that you saw in places like in Obsidia and a couple of the other places you've been, a lot of these places are more uniform in a way. A lot of the material used to create a lot of these places is very similar. There's a lot of white and sort of gold type colours used in the painting and constructions and such of the various buildings around. The other thing you notice is there's a lot of symbols on the walls. Again, mostly very similar symbols. If anyone wants to roll religion, they can.
Nah.
3.
I don't know. Let's see.
I legit roll a 1.
They're definitely symbols.
Yeah.
9.
It's Bahamut. Most of them are Bahamut symbol.
So, Bahamut.
Huh?
Well, the symbols. You know, I'm pretty certain it's Bahamut.
Yeah. So for reference, I mean, you off the top of your head, you can't think of a lot more, but Bahamut is the dragon god of good.
Yeah, there we go. So I'll add that. The dragon god of good.
That's
Makes
nice.
sense, seeing as they're screening people to stop anyone from evil alignment coming inside.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It seems like it's a very good city.
So a few of you do sort of think back to some of the conversations with Captain Everick and such, and a few of the others where they've mentioned that Montai is quite a holy place overall, and Siltai is a place where a lot of people come for pilgrimages, and it's a place of devout holy good, which is why a lot of the people that you've seen working in the rice paddies and such, they're doing a lot of work, but based on a few of the things that you were told, that's what they do on a lot of the pilgrimages. A lot of them come and they do work for little more than a little bit of food to keep them sustained and such, and they work for the good of others rather than for personal profit or gain. So as you go through, you see on almost every single building somewhere there is one of these symbols of Bahamut. and it's a theme that's rife throughout the city. Every now and then you do see little platinum statues of a dragon outside some houses, which is basically an effigy of Bahamut. So he is the platinum dragon.
Pimpin'.
Do we see people wearing like tiny little statues on a pendant sort of thing?
You don't see anyone wearing anything like that. So a lot of the people that you see wandering around, other than the odd guard you see here and there, a lot of them are actually wearing fairly simple clothes, or very loose, comfortable looking sort of
Robes
peasants'
and
clothes, and if there's a few people in robes, there's not a huge number of them. Robes don't tend to be very good for obviously a lot of manual labour and menial tasks and things. So a lot of them are typical sort of farmhand type clothes, but just a lot of them are loose fitting and comfortable looking.
I'm going to head towards the market.
Yep.
We're going to need to find whoever organised the market, get some space, get our stalls set up. We need to find some lodgings, and then we need to find out where the palace is.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
I'm guessing that's not going to be difficult to see. Spot.
Next, do we have a particular contact? I can't remember.
Yes, we do. I just can't remember the name.
Yeah.
We need.
Our
need-
note lady is
yes,
not here
We
currently.
need, we need the scribe.
So as you're getting closer to the market, Barefoot sort of calls over and says, "Oi, so once we get to the market, we'll find the person that we're making this delivery to, and then we'll get everything sorted. We were told that you guys would be splitting off for a time. You had some other business you had to attend to."
Yes.
Yes.
That is correct.
Don't worry too much about us. This is all a delivery for a particular company. It's all in hand. You guys will have plenty of time to do whatever it is you're doing. If you need to find us, I mean, I'm sure you'll find us in one of the smaller pubs, I guess.
That's when Barefoot finds out there's a drink limit.
No.
So we've been put up in the Platinum Dragon Inn for now. All expenses paid, apparently, which is quite nice. I'm certainly going to take advantage of that.
So don't be generous.
Don't cause an incident. We don't want to. You never know what the punishments here are.
Well, I imagine it's the same as a lot of places. Don't get too rowdy. Don't start any fights. Don't kill anyone. Generally, you should be good.
Hence why I want to go and get a list of the laws so we don't break any of them.
Or the best rules. Or as I was always told, the best rule to go by is don't make less people, don't make more people, and if you end up in prison, assert a dominance quickly.
I mean, making more people can't be that bad.
It depends who you're making them with.
I can't say I've ever been this with someone long enough to find out. Anyway, so we'll be in the Platinum Dragon Inn.
Are there lodgings for us also?
Apparently you guys have rooms paid for and such if you need them. We'll pretty much be waiting for you guys for whenever you're done and ready. We're in no rush. We might stay and sightsee a little bit, but whatever you need to do, take your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
He sort of tips his hat, and the caravan starts heading off without him.
Nice.
As I start heading in the direction I was told to go to the first guardhouse.
That's fine. So as you guys keep going off, they split off just before the market a little bit, and then you guys keep going and you find the market. So there's a lot of different fruits and vegetables and a lot of the different stalls and stands and things.
Yeah.
You do find a couple of stalls full of various religious looking trinkets, and there's a couple of potion stands. There are a couple of weapon stands, but not many.
It seems like this is the place that doesn't need them.
Mm-hmm.
No, if there are no evil people in the city, there are no need for weapons.
But then even
Most of the time.
I was going to say even good people have reasons to fight.
That's why I said most of the time. Anyway.
That's true.
I want to get to the guardhouse. We can come back here afterwards.
That's point. Who has the cargo, or is that with the caravan?
Macaria.
It's like cargo.
Let me just have a quick look to double check who it is. That was
Yeah.
your contact.
In character, I would remember the name. Out of character. I've slept since then.
So you were informed that the Empress herself knows that the robes are being delivered, and the Shogun and head guard captain are aware of some outlanders with important business, but you don't know if they know for sure what it is. They know some outlanders are coming.
Okay. Well, going to a guard post is a good idea because we need to find the head guard captain.
Okay, so you head past the market. So a few people sort of look up, fairly sort of intrigued by the fact that you're sort of walking through in very non-Montaigne clothing.
Yeah.
No one's rude or anything. It's just sort of mild interest because it's not the most common thing to see outlanders. But
we're noobs. They're like, ooh, interesting.
Yeah. You go a little bit past the market. The stalls sort of come to a bit of an end, a little bit further along, and a little bit further than that, you see that there's a building that has some fairly official-looking symbols on the sides, as well as a large symbol of Bahamut over the top of where the doorway is.
I hope we're in the right place. As I knock on the door.
Okay, so you sort of knock on the door, and no one actually answers. So you do notice sort of a couple of guards around, sort of wandering, haven't sort of really noticed you, but knocking doesn't seem to elicit any real response.
I'm going to try and flag down one of the guards walking around.
Okay, so he sort of wanders over, gives a bow. How can I help?
I was told by the guards at the gates that this would be a good place to get the list of the laws of the land. We are new here. And
yes, we can certainly furnish you as such. Please follow me. It's a public entryway. So so he steps in and then steps aside and holds the door open. And you notice it's sort of a bit of a large entryway. There's a step up a little way in, and it looks like there's a place where people seem to leave shoes. But there doesn't appear to be anyone sort of immediately here, and there doesn't seem to be a welcome desk or anything, which is why you don't think.
To get my boots off.
Yeah, it's why you don't think you got a response from knocking, because it's sort of a public entry.
So as we get to the bit with the shoes, is it customary for people to take their shoes off?
It is customary, but outlanders are treated with a degree of understanding that you may not understand our customs.
I'm sitting on the floor struggling to get my my boots off.
If it's easier, I can go and fetch.
Better fix that one. As I look at my filthy wool socks, with the toes sticking out.
If it's easier, I can fetch some for you rather than you going to the trouble of removing your footwear.
Thank you.
There's the other one.
So
also, we are looking for the head guard captain. We've been told he is expecting us.
She wouldn't be down here. She would be up at the castle itself. The head captain wouldn't often be down at one of the smaller guard houses here. Apologies, it's not often an Outlander asks directly for the head captain. Seems like a lot of Outlanders tend to try to avoid us.
I'm trying to think of a way of saying I am lawful without saying I'm lawful.
We respect the law.
I respect the law, even in the land.
I'm the law.
I am the law.
Well, that's certainly admirable, and the Great Dragon himself would appreciate your efforts to abide by our laws. I'll fetch you a copy of the laws of the land, and should you make your way up to Fukusaka Castle, you should be able to ask there, and they should be able to fetch the head captain there. Unfortunately, we can't really leave our posts.
No, of course
here.
not. I would not ask for you to disobey orders by leaving your post.
I'll be back momentarily. He bows, and it looks like their boots are far easier to take off, and he takes those off quickly, puts them aside, and then starts heading off and turns off into one of the rooms.
You can pop your boots back on.
So in here, unlike a lot of the Valyrian and more Western doors where you have a door handle, it swings open.
Oh, those sort of boots.
This door is one that he takes inside and slides.
Riding boots.
Yeah, makes
That
sense.
is good to know.
Some of the walls of and some of the doors, it looks at best guess like maybe some kind of paper that makes them up, rather than like concrete or stone or wood, which is a little bit weird, but who you to judge, I guess.
Each their own.
Yeah, I grew up on a hollowed out tree.
Fair point.
No, still, it's not much that separates.
We're going to
the
wait
rooms.
patiently, but I'm going to stand back so that if anyone needs to come in, we're not in the way.
Yeah, of course. After a couple of minutes, he comes back. He doesn't take long at all, and he hands you a small scroll, and says this would be a copy of the laws of our land.
Thank you. If I open it up and have a quick skim.
Is there anything else that you would require help with while you are here?
Directions to the palace if possible.
And is it necessary to make some sort of appointment to conduct business in the palace?
I mean, if you already have business with the head captain, she'd probably be better placed to speak to you further regarding that. I certainly don't think I'd be in any position to presume to give you any kind of business in the palace.
Yes.
As for reaching it, if you follow the main thoroughfare, there's a few twists and turns, but I mean the castle's fairly obvious. You should be able to orient yourself. If you do get lost, I'm sure people along the way can direct you, but it shouldn't be too difficult to find your way along the main road.
Thank you very much.
Once again, he bows to you all, and he puts his boots on.
My best at a bow, but I'm used to curtsying. I don't bow. I'm like,
yeah.
This isn't my jam.
So
I salute or curtsy. Those are my two options. Bowing was not one of them.
And you do both at the same time?
Yes.
So to cut a bit of a long story short on the laws and such, a lot of the laws are fairly typical things.
Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal.
Yeah, and anything that you think a good religious deity would probably frown upon is bad. There is a lot of mention about.
So no sticking things up your bum.
Hey, in private, you can. Anyway, there is mention of honour and respect, and that you should always show respect to the people around you. There's a small section on etiquette which actually does mention bowing to people, a lot like the trader you met outside of Aki Harbour mentioned, where it's polite to bow in greeting and farewell, or just in respect in general. There is a mention that the polite procedure, if the emperor or empress makes a public appearance, is to get onto your knees and
Supplicate ourselves.
yeah, basically, it's not that it's a punishable thing, but it's the polite thing to do, sort of thing. It mentions a few things about weapons aren't prohibited. However, drawing in anything other than self-defense is.
Okay.
It also mentions that the use of magic is controlled.
Right.
It's not again not forbidden. However, just using magic willy-nilly all over the place is probably inadvisable.
Yeah.
Just because they can't necessarily be sure whether it's offensive magic or not.
Defensive, yeah. Makes sense.
But yeah.
Well, our Wibbleslinger doesn't really do offensive, so.
No, she's a buff mage.
She did last
sorceress.
She
A
did
buff
use a ray of
sorceress.
frost.
That's true. That is true.
But
Let's go.
So you step outside.
And on we go.
So you heading up to the castle, or you heading down to the markets first?
Castle.
Castle.
Okay.
Get business out of the way.
Business,
Yeah.
then pleasure, not the other way around.
So
That's true. Yeah.
like the guard mentioned, when you actually look up, you can pretty much always see the castle unless you're directly behind a wall that's facing
Obstructing the
away
view,
from it.
yeah.
But from most places, you can see the castle from almost anywhere in the city.
Cool.
It's a fairly reasonable castle, and it looks like a fairly well fortified one, especially being somewhat uphill. Obviously, the charge uphill is not the most comfortable thing in the world for fighting battles and things. But as you head up,
Probably
there's a
made
few.
it that way on purpose.
Yeah, the main road sort of winds a little bit. There's the odd split and fork, but there's a clear sort of main road at any of these splits and forks. And you start to head your way up, and you can see, especially as you're walking up, you can actually see that the city seems to have a lot of humble roots. You see that a lot of the people around aren't showing a lot of obvious signs of wealth or ostentation. A lot of it is far more sparse and conservative. The sort of thing you generally expect from a religious temple. But it seems to be sort of pervasive throughout the whole city. You do see the odd person in quite a nice robe or quite a nice set of clothes, whether they're rich or they're on a day off or whatever. You're not necessarily sure unless you were to ask them. But again, you do see a few people sort of wearing nicer things than peasants' robes and things. But again, still not many signs of ostentation and such.
Fair.
As you get up towards the main gates to Fukusaka Castle, the first thing that comes into view is a huge platinum statue of a dragon. I mean, this thing is easily 3 times any of your heights, as opposed not necessarily his,
Like
but
6
the rest
times
of
his, but
it's a big statue.
That might make it
Wow.
huge, rather large.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
Huge.
The wings, huge platinum statue.
Oh, huge!
Did say huge?
So the wings are actually what make up the arches
Oh damn!
of the gate itself.
It's not so much a statue then. It's more just architecture.
It's part of the building.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's nonetheless it's fairly massive. The gates themselves are actually also solid platinum, and even from here you can see.
Wow.
But they've been coloured with gold. So you've got the silver of the platinum on the dragon itself, and then the gates are a golden shimmering as well.
Shiny.
Looking to the front of the gate, you can see 7 guards, and they are almost perfectly spaced between the edges of the archway, with one dead centre in the middle.
Going to walk up.
Okay.
I'm going to dismount.
Okay. So as you arrive,
lead my doggy here.
they all seem to be sort of in something of an at ease kind of stance. They seem fairly comfortable, but they're all standing in the same position.
Yeah.
As you approach, the 6 around the edge immediately stiffen up to what seems like some kind of attention, and the one directly in the middle also comes to attention.
Yeah.
And she takes a single step forward, essentially in greeting, but she doesn't say anything as of yet.
Okay, so as I step forward, do the bow.
As you bow, she returns the bow.
Hello, my name is Cassandra Harmont, and I'm looking for the head guard captain. We are here from Valia to do business.
Well, you have found the head guard captain. I am she. My name is Yuki Kana.
It's an honour to meet you.
What would your business be?
We have some business with the Empress. I was told you would be expecting us.
So she sort of takes a moment, looks across you almost expectantly. At which point, Makaria sort of pipes up, and she holds out a scroll that is sealed. The head guard captain takes the scroll and she breaks the seal, obviously, and she takes a few moments to read it, and then she rolls it back up and she calls a short, sharp order in a language that you don't understand. At which point, all 6 of the other guards then bow in perfect unison. At which point, she sort of turns to you all and sort of stands there for a moment. You're not entirely sure why she's just sort of stood there for a moment, but again, she doesn't seem to be sort of doing anything at this point. A couple more moments pass. Still nothing happens.
No.
A couple more moments pass.
Yeah. In my head, I'm just there like, should I say anything? Should I do anything?
So, after a few more moments, you hear a fairly loud sort of clang on the other side of the door. Well, gates, as it sounds like they're being unlocked. At which point, a couple of people on the other side are opening them, and they don't open them fully. They open them enough, and someone else steps through the gates who is in the same guard armour as the other guards that stood at the front, which I did forget to mention they're more ornate, the armour, than you see on any of the other guards. It is different to every other guard in the city. It seems to be specific to the castle. Even though
the Empress's guards have
and
their own,
even though it looks more ornate, you also get the feeling that it's probably better armour. But so another guard steps through, and you can hear a little bit that he's breathing a little bit heavily. At which point he bows to the head captain. She bows back. At which point he then takes her place. She then steps to the side, takes off her helmet, and long black hair sort of is bunned up at the back inside the helmet, and you can see that it's sort of tied with a bun. And then she puts the helmet under her arm and says, "If you'd like to all follow me." So she steps through the gap in the gates, which is enough pretty much for one armoured person to step through at a time. So each of you have to obviously go through one at a time. But
as we're going through, I'm going to say, is there somewhere we could place the dog in carriage while we are conducting business?
And do we have to leave our weapons? And I assume we need to leave our weapons here as well?
You shouldn't need to leave your weapons. You are official emissaries of Obsidia, and you will be treated with the utmost of respect. You will be allowed to keep your weapons. We do have a stable just on the inside of the castle walls. You'll be able to keep your horses and your dog there. Should you have any special needs, please inform one of the stable hands, and they will ensure they are catered for.
Thank you.
So she steps in and sort of allows everyone else in. They open the gates a little bit wider so that the horses can come through. Once you've all stepped through, and with all the horses and such, the gates are then closed and then re-bolted across. When you step onto the inside, you can see sort of some of the courtyard, and you can see that there is a stable there. And it's obviously quite a large stable based on the idea that on occasion there may be a lot of people come in through the main gates. So she leads you across to where the stables are, and again says a few words to one of the stable hands in a language you don't understand. At which point the stable hand says, "Hi, how can I help?"
Can't frickin' words today. If you'd be so kind as to look after our horses and dog while we conduct business, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, we certainly can. Is there anything that is required more than a normal horse might?
Well, she can do with she needs a lot of grooming.
What type of grooming would be required?
Well, her fur is very thick, and this climate is quite hot, so she's shedding quite a lot.
I understand. We will do our best. He bows he bows lower than a lot of the others. Obviously, he's with the head captain there and people that she's personally escorting. He sort of seems very on edge, and you can sort of tell that the common tongue isn't his first language.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be as nice and simple as possible.
A couple of the other stable hands sort of scurry forwards and help take the horse's reins and such and lead them in. One of them sort of comes over and sort of takes the dog's collar and gently leads it forward. Nothing again forceful or much, but just with respect. But so after a couple of moments, Captain Yuki then walks you up to the main gates of the castle itself. So the gates to Fukusaka Castle are actually huge wooden gates. Each one has a large symbol of Bahamut on the face. At which point there are again some guards on the door, 4 in front of this particular one. At which point they 2 of them open the gates for you as she steps in. At which point another individual with what immediately looks like a personal guard steps forward to meet you. Now this man is in what looks like I could probably only describe sort of as a warrior's kimono. He's not dressed for battle, but it looks like comfortable garb for someone of a more warrior-based class you'd see in sort of Japanese culture and such. And he steps forward. But the person that's sort of flanking him is there in full ceremonial-looking samurai armour, covered head to toe, including a mempo that pretty much covers the entirety of his face. You can't, especially at the distance you're currently at as he's walking towards you, can't even see his eyes. As you sort of walk closer, he sort of is walking directly towards you, and as you all sort of get to the point you meet, the head captain bows to him and he bows back. The samurai next to him also bows, and so she says to him, "Shogun Ide, the guests that we have been expecting have arrived." She hands him the scroll, at which point he takes a curious look and says, "Ah, it is good to finally meet you. I must confess, I wasn't expecting you quite so quickly."
We were told this was a very important piece of business that needed to be conducted, so we made it our mission to make it here as soon as we could.
We proceeded with all haste.
Most admirable. So if everyone could roll me perception checks.
16.
7.
6. I'm rolling terrible so far.
So immediately you can see that he, even though he's in what looks like a more comfortable informal attire, he does still have a katana at his side. The other one also obviously has his weapon, but he's in full armour, so you expected that. You notice that the one in his armour seems really quite stiff, almost on edge, and the shogun seems far more relaxed from what you can see. Around this sort of entry foyer, you see quite a few guards, and a lot of them, even sort of without making an insight check, based on perception, you can just sort of see a lot of them are fairly imperceptibly turning to look, but trying not to look like they're looking.
Yeah.
And this seems like a very sort of abnormal thing for day-to-day runnings, or even for a lot of guests, you'd probably guess.
Yeah.
You guys sort of notice, obviously, that he's got a weapon and he's fairly informed, but you don't really notice a lot of the rest.
Yeah. Big dude.
So. Right. So, as sort of you look around a little bit, the Shogun says to you, so do you have the delivery in your possession at the moment?
We do.
Wonderful. Would you be in a position to present it now, or?
Of course.
Wonderful. If you give us a couple of moments, then he turns to one of the guards towards the back of sort of foyer type area, shouts a couple of orders again in this language that Captain Yuki has been using, and the guard immediately stiffens, bows, and then heads off down one of the corridors. So he shall be back in a few minutes once he has informed the Empress that she has guests.
Of course.
How was your trip?
Was good. Some of our party aren't used to being on the sea, so it was a bit difficult to get used to. But the journey through your lands was beautiful. It's not often we see such vast open spaces with no buildings.
Well,
Agreed.
There's a lot of land that has not been cultivated and as does not need to be cultivated. You may have seen the rice paddies outside the city. They are certainly well equipped to feed many mouths. And with those who make pilgrimages to honour our Lord Bahamut, then we certainly have no shortage of hands willing to help tend to the fields. Even those who are not the strongest, there are still things that they can do. Those who believe they have no skills have worth in the eyes of our Lord. And so we certainly thank you for the skills that you possess to help provide us with the gift that you have.
It's an honour to be given the possibility of doing so.
So after a couple of minutes of this talking, the guard comes back, and the Shogun sort of looks over. The guard resumes his position, bows, and stands still. I take that to mean that they would be ready. If you would follow us.
Thank you.
So the Shogun, the head captain, and the samurai then begin to lead you forwards down the same corridor that the guards ran down.
Yep.
They take you through a couple of corridors and into a room. Again, slide open door. So this room is relatively sparse overall, but there is a slightly raised wooden platform forwards somewhat with some fairly regal red sort of almost curtains, drapes maybe, you're not really sure, but again it looks like it's obviously got its purpose.
Yeah.
And there's a young woman who is sitting regally on a mat in the middle of this raised platform. She can't be older than early 20s. She might even be as young as her late teens at a best guess. And on either side of her is an individual dressed similarly to the way that the Shogun is, in almost a warrior's kimono, and they're also on their knees. They're not on mats, but they are either side of her, and they're kneeling in place. So the Shogun, the samurai, and the head captain all step forward and bow deeply. What do you guys do?
Gonna follow.
No, yeah.
Bow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys walk
If
in
in
and you
doubt,
also bow.
Do as they do.
At which
If in
point-
doubt, bow.
Yeah, they're not bowing, bow.
So, at which point, the Empress herself sort of provides a small bow from her kneeling position. The Shogun then sort of nods towards the two retainers, who stand up and they exit to a door to the side. At which point, the Shogun and the head captain take the places of the two retainers.
Mm-hmm.
The samurai stands basically on the platform next to the wall near the Shogun.
Mm.
He looks a little bit awkwardly stiff. Again, he looks like he doesn't seem to be very comfortable at the moment. Again, fairly out there proceedings, but still. So the Empress then says to you, I welcome you to our fair city. So she's very formal and she's very polite and she's very softly spoken. Her voice almost has a song-like quality to it, but it's not that she's doing anything. It's just it's a very that type of voice.
Yeah.
Thank you for providing such a service to us and coming so far to make such a service possible. Would you please present the robe? So at this point,
Invisible.
Makaria has a sort of awkward sort of yes, and she sort of looks at it, finds the right bag.
So yes, I'm wearing it.
So she sort of pulls out the robe and she sort of looks like she's not sure what to do. At which point the Empress sort of looks over to the Shogun. At which point the Shogun then nods to the apprentice. The apprentice bows deeply. At which point he steps forward to where Makari is. He bows deeply and then holds his hands out. She sort of takes a moment and places the robe in his hands. At which point, once again, he sort of bows a little bit, even in his bowed position. Then he stands up straighter, turns around and walks over to where the Shogun is.
Mm-hmm.
He kneels before the Shogun, sort of throwing the robe out in front of him first. The Shogun takes a couple of moments looking and sort of appraising.
Mm-hmm.
You see him nod, at which point, once again, he nods, stands back up, goes in front of the Empress herself, kneels down and bows very deeply before offering the robe itself to her. She sort of takes a moment, takes the robe, unfolds it a little bit. She sort of almost loses herself in feeling the material. Roll me an insight. Anyone can roll an insight for that.
Insight. Hey, a decent roll.
Non-natural 20.
A non-natural 20.
It's going to be a 13.
Okay, so all of you can tell that the way she sort of loses herself, you can almost sort of see a look in her eyes that glazes over. And it's like, unlike one of you touching the robe, where it's just a robe of very nice material, even the touching of the material for her seems to spark something. And based on the fact that you were told that the blood of the Empress...
It was made
Emperor,
for
Empress.
her to imbue her with power. It makes sense that she's reacting to it.
And you can see that, you know, there is
It's almost like it's attuned
more
to
this.
her.
After a couple of moments, she sort of seems to realise that she'd been lost in, or almost the feeling of whatever was happening.
More than a feeling.
At which point she says, "Thank you so very much. We have prepared a reward for your service, and my Shogun," and she sort of gestures to him, "will provide this to you. If you are amenable, you're welcome to stay in our guest house for the evening. Should you wish. If you do, I would also invite you to eat with us this evening, as it is always good to foster friendship with our country's neighbours."
It would be our pleasure.
She sort of smiles a little bit. almost a childish smile, not like she's being childish, like tricky, just almost like childlike joy.
Yeah.
At which point she loses a little bit of the formal elegance that she's been sort of putting on, and she says, "Well, I'm rather excited to have guests, especially from another land. I've never had a chance to really talk to Outlanders before. My head captain Yuki and the Shogun's apprentice will be your guides for the duration of your stay, if you'd like." At this point, the Shogun sort of you can see he's smiling a little bit, almost amused. At which point she says, "Oh, yes, I do apologise. Please, if you would be so kind as to hang on a few moments, I will ensure that the apprentice and my guard captain are in more suitable attire to act as your guides." She sort of, again, bows a little bit to you.
Yeah, bow back.
At which point, at this point, the Shogun and the head captain stand up and they close the front of the curtains.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably you think she's probably moving.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things that you don't necessarily think most people are to watch, so to speak. It might be an outdated tradition. It might just be that it's a religious thing. You can't be sure.
Yeah.
But after a few moments, the head captain steps out from the side with still the helmet off and says, "My apologies for the Empress. She's still rather young and rather excitable. Myself and Ro will be out shortly. If you'd be so kind as to step back towards the foyer, and then we will show you to where you'd be able to stay for the evening, and then if there is anything you wish to do, we can certainly guide you."
Please take your time.
And then she sort of bows to you again and steps back behind the curtain. At which point, you guys make your way back to the foyer.
Yep.
So we.
Then there were two.
So Lucy unfortunately can't join us because she is not well, and Brett unfortunately, Burke, that's it.
He's gone home because he's not doing too good. He's recently gone back from a trip and we think he's a bit burnt out, so he's gone home to nap. So we're gonna manage this, just the two of us.
Normally we won't run with less than 4 people, but because we thought we'd have Lucy a bit later, then we still ran. Normally we definitely wouldn't run with this few people, but again, it's fine. We were already going, and I'm sure they'll be okay. I won't kill them too hard.
Okay, we'll manage.
It's fine. We're only alone with the royal family. It's all right.
So
I say alone.
So after a little bit of waiting, you're not there for long, maybe 10-15 minutes. You know, probably what you'd expect to get out of armour, maybe freshen up a little bit or whatever. The head captain comes back, and what a difference a little bit of time makes. So rather than the sort of austere bund up hair, you know, large, fairly solid looking armour, she's now wearing again something of a warrioress's kimono, a little bit more delicate, very pretty, and her long black hair is no longer bund up, but it's still been put up, but it's got hair chopsticks holding them up, and she actually looks very pretty like that. And it's very different to the way that she looked in her armour. She sort of walks over and gives a slightly less formal bow. She still bows and says, "Apologies, Ro will be along soon. He's a little bit shy around new people." You end up waiting a few more minutes. She sort of, tells you a little bit about how the Empress is quite young. Unfortunately, she was kind of pushed into it a little bit sooner than most emperors or empresses would, because her father died a year and a half prior. So
Oh.
overall, it's still relatively fresh. And being a fairly young Empress of 21, she's very new. She's still learning a lot of what it means to be an Empress, and she still has a lot of youthful curiosity. So even though she's not really able to get outside of the palace, well, generally at all, she's very curious about the outside world, and she sort of explains a little bit about how, if you hadn't sort of agreed to stay along, she probably would have been quite upset. Not offended necessarily. Obviously, it's quite a big thing for an Empress to ask people to stay.
What's that? Won't stay with me? Off with their heads!
But she sort of warns you a little bit that the Empress may ask you a lot of questions about the outside world and goings on. And
Yeah, she said that. I turn and look at Macaria, and if the Empress wouldn't object, I'm sure my friend will have many questions for her also.
I mean, I imagine the Empress will answer what she can, with her sort of limited experience that she has.
But I'm sure any questions that she can't answer, you may be able to, or
I can try. I can certainly try. So after a few more minutes,
sorry, one more thing. Before we go round viewing the city, I was wondering if it would be possible to change into something less standoutish.
oh, certainly, of course. As once the Shogun's apprentice arrives, we'll show you to where the guest houses are, and you'll have some time to get yourselves comfortable and change and such. There are some clothes already there. There are always some comfortable clothes. Oh, excuse me, apologies. There are always that's Cassus, not Captain Yuki. There's always some sort of informal attire should anyone wish to wear something more to our custom.
I don't want to upset the goings on of the city by walking through in my current attire.
You may get a few looks, but I'm sure you'd be okay. Whatever you're comfortable in is what would be best for you. So after a few moments, though, the Shogun's apprentice comes back, and he may not be wearing the large suit of armour that he was before, but he has opted for a smaller suit of armour that still entirely covers him, and he still looks as stiff and rigid as he did. And his face is still covered, and his head is still covered, and he sort of takes a moment, and you can't really see his eyes from the distance he stood, but he sort of gives a poignant look to the head captain. She sort of rolls her eyes and walks over to him, at which point he sort of leans forward a little bit in a semi-bow, but it's not actually a bow. And she sort of leans her ear over, and you assume that he's whispering something to her. And she says, "I'm sure it'll be fine, okay?" At which point she sort of steps over and sort of looks at you for a moment, and sort of looks back at him. And he takes his helmet off. And you look into the eyes of your perfect mirror.
My twin.
So,
Right.
Oh.
As that happens, I'm literally going to drop to the floor, tears streaming down my face.
Yeah, so I went. Yeah, so my expression went from to
This man that you're seeing take his helmet off, he is almost identical. He's clearly a man, but otherwise his general features, his eye colour, except for the fact that they're switched from her heterochromic eyes. Aside from that, almost everything is what you'd expect to be a mirror twin. Just
like
of the
almost
opposite gender.
exact mirror image of me.
Yeah, it's like well, I'm feeling a bit awkward now.
So Yuki sort of, where she was smiling before, she's sort of not really smiling anymore, but she's still trying to be generally polite. I see you know, Apprentice Rowan.
As I get up and run.
He sort of
Like
stands
ignoring
still.
all formalities.
Yeah, he sort of stands still for a moment, fully sort of expecting you to plough into him.
Yeah.
And I take it you hug him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not like fucking shoulder tackle him or something.
No. Like head buried in his shoulder, full on hug.
Yeah. So he's sort of still a little bit stiff at the moment. Partly because it looks like he's sort of very uncomfortable and unsure what to do. Also partly because the armour does appear to be fairly stiff armour.
Yeah.
And he sort of puts his arm around you gently and sort of hugs you and takes a moment. You do notice that he isn't sort of obviously emotional, like crying and such, but you can see the smile and you can tell that he's you can feel the relief.
Yeah.
That you're okay, and you can also see that he clearly wasn't expecting you here.
Mm.
And based on what you now know, you have a feeling you understand why the apprentice was being so stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the fact
one,
that
it was a shock to see me turning up in, his city, and two, what the fuck is she gonna do when she knows it's me?
Yeah, in my head right now, I'm just there like going, so which brother is it? Or is this one of the bad ones? It can't be one of the bad ones.
one of the six brothers, she told you about, or the identical twin, and the guy that looks like her mirror double. Which one could this possibly
it's definitely
be?
not the dead one. So after I hug him for a minute, I'm gonna step back, slap him playfully on the shoulder, like.
I'm very sorry, Cassandra. But if we had stayed together, two of us travelling together would have drawn a very suspicious crowd. Whereas splitting us up was the best thing to do.
But without saying anything? Just leaving? Abandoning me?
I had very little choice after we left Iceheart.
You could have said something, a note, anything.
Unfortunately, circumstances did not permit.
I've been searching for you all this time.
I apologise for all the issues that this may have caused you. But I made sure that you were looked after I left. I am sorry, but I had no choice. I was being followed. Our heritage alone makes us targets, and Master Hamon was most gracious in offering to look after you. So he says that completely straight face, and he sort of doesn't seem to be sort of at all sort of put off by the look you're giving him, but.
I don't know what to say to you right now. I honestly don't.
He sort of turns to look over to where Yuki is. She's sort of looking a little bit awkward at this point. And as he turns, you can see a really large scar there on his neck. It definitely wasn't there the last time you saw him.
Like, as he turns, I'm like trying to move the armour to properly see.
It sort of almost exchanges unspoken words with Yuki, who sort of says, "So, if the rest of you would like to come with me, I can show you to the guest house. I'm sure Apprentice Rowan can show Cassandra along once they've discussed a bit further."
Yes, of course. Come along, Hoff. Lucaria, let's go.
Yeah. So I basically go, like, as I realise that, oh shit, I'm with people. It's like, oh yeah, shit, I'm with people. Fuck.
Yeah, so as you're sort of pointing that out, he says to you, as I said, situation did not permit.
Yes.
I say squeak as 21.
As as she's sort of starting to walk you guys along, you sort of see her look over to Rowan, and you see him look back, and you sort of see a look between them. Which it's not just a look of, you know, I'll deal with it, it's fine. It's more of an intimate look.
Yeah, so that's between, you know, Rowan and
Captain
Yuki.
Yeah. Yeah, so
but it's not obvious, and they're not parading anything, and they're not being like dirty or anything. But
no, I mean,
unspoken understanding sort of thing.
Yeah, no, yeah. Merlan understands. Yeah.
Wait,
Carson,
you do?
Yeah, no, I understand the situation. You know, as an out of character point of view. Carson is just
what,
like
they banging?
Yeah, Carson's just like, what could that mean? I can't mean anything. I'm not so well versed in this. So something is going on between those two. I'll get to the bottom of it. It's the last thing I do. Yeah, just walking out. No, I'm not. But
you touch my brother, you're gonna have to deal with me. And I'm a lot more scary.
Oh no, there's definitely going to be a weird topic of conversation coming up later. Oh look, a cup of tea.
So, as she starts walking you guys towards where the guest house is, she sort of says to you guys, "So I gather you know Apprentice Rowan."
Personally, no. But I know little about Cassandra's family. Judging by the fact that they share the same lineage, and then I would assume that's her twin brother.
He's told me a little bit about his family as well, and I honestly wasn't expecting it. I didn't even really realise until I saw them in the same room together. But I'm a little bit better composed than Rowan tends to be. He's only really been with us about 2 to 3 years. Poor thing was exhausted when he arrived. I'm not even sure Montyre was where he meant to end up. Just, I imagine circumstance brought him here, and that's.
It certainly sounds like it, but it seems he had the best interest at heart when it came to making sure Cassandra was looked after.
I mean, he certainly seemed to be harbouring a lot of guilt for the fact that he had to leave her, but.
I feel that Cassandra, might find that hard to understand. But then, in time, I'm sure she'll see the light, so to speak.
Well, I imagine it's best given some time. But either way, I'll show you to the guest houses. And she escorts you out of the main doors while you're talking. And starts heading down one side of the castle and starts to head towards some buildings that are not part of the main castle. They're very, very nice buildings. Couple of story, almost pagoda-like. They're not pagodas, I might add, but almost that's kind of the vibe they give off. They're very, very nice. They look very ornate.
So pagoda-ish. Esque. Ish-esque.
And she steps over and says, so this one has been allocated for you and your companions. You'll find that there is at least one room per person in there. There's actually enough for 12 rooms, but of course there's not 12 of you, so no one else will be in the other rooms while you're here. The entire guest house is laid out just for you all. Feel free to pick whatever room you feel most comfortable with, and please get yourselves comfortable, make yourselves at home.
Yeah, thank you. You are very generous.
She bows, and then she sort of takes up not a guarding position, but she just sort of stands to one side of the main doorway in and just sort of gets herself a little bit comfortable there.
Then in that case, I'm going to go. I'm going to go find
forage
a room.
for a room.
Yeah, forage for a room. I'm going to assume that basically the way to each room is pretty much identical.
Yeah, all of the rooms have been set in such a way where they all are actually quite luxurious, but they're all the same. So there's no favouritism shown at all. Each room again, so it's all the same sort of paper walls that you've seen in a lot of these places with sliding doors. The beds aren't beds. They are. It's essentially something laid out on the floor. It's a bed-like thing, but it's not what you're used to with the wooden poster beds and mattresses and things.
So is it more like a bedroll, so to speak, across the floor?
No, because it's still set out and it's still there and it's still in place. Think Japanese bedrooms with the sleeping.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure. I know what you mean.
Yeah, they're also very sparse rooms, very feng shui, where they're not crowded with stuff. There's not loads of stuff in there. There's what looks like a dressing table with a mirror and a few bits. There's a closed wardrobe and a couple of drawers. Otherwise, there's not a lot in the room.
So it's nice not having a lot of clutter. But yeah, I basically just pick a room at random. I'm just like
me, Manny, you.
No, yeah. So just go random room. I'm going to make sure that my rucksack is taken off, and I'm like, I put it down and go. Now it clutters up the room.
Messes with the function.
Yeah. So I'm going to put it. Open up the cupboard. Is there enough room to put my bag in the cupboard?
Hanging up in this cupboard, there are 5 sets of female clothing and 5 sets of male clothing. Each one is functionally a male or female kimono-like robe. They're nice. They look like they're comfortable, clean, of a nice feeling material. There is enough space in the bottom for you to put your rucksack in with no effort, with no issues. There is plenty of space.
Cool. In that case, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to go and get changed into the into one of the male kimonos.
Not with a cross dress, no.
Go on, wear a woman's one. Fuck it, be hilarious.
I'm kidding. I don't expect him in any way to wear one of the female ones.
Oh yeah, no, because I'm reasonably buff as well. Because strength of 16. I don't think it would look good on me.
The female
one.
The female ones do seem a little bit more delicate.
Strength of 18, do you really think it's going to look good on me?
Hey, at least
if it ain't going to look good on you, how's it going to look on me?
Hey, relative strength.
Bitch, I'm buffer than you.
And you've still got more of the relevant curves, whereas I don't.
You mean I have tits and you don't?
Yeah. It wouldn't compliment my figure.
Your tats.
But yeah, so I'm going to try to get my head around one of these things, and I'm going to assume that they've got what's it? I'm trying to think of what the name of the shoes are. Not what you know what I mean. They're not exactly shoes.
Basically sandals.
Yeah, sandals.
Tabby.
Yeah, I take it they've got some of them as well.
Yeah, there are.
Cool. I'm going to try wearing some of them as well.
So I'm going to leave you struggle with the kimono for a bit. So they've sort of wandered out, and Rowan sort of watched after them for a second as you're sort of glaring at him. You sort of acknowledge the scar. He sort of said, as I said, circumstances did not permit.
Care to explain what the hell happened?
So sort of looks around. You sort of see him looking towards the fact there's a lot of guards. He sort of gestures towards the main door.
Why so formal?
Well, it's just.
Yeah, no, but I'm.
His gesture isn't formal. It's more of the obvious sort of let's not talk with so many people around type gesture.
Get out.
So start walking with him.
So you guys step out, and he sort of walks towards one of the larger courtyard areas and starts to walk more towards the central area, so that the sound doesn't get to carry or reverberate as much.
Yeah.
He says, "So after we left Ice Heart,
I don't remember Ice Heart.
The only place we could go was down to Tanfell. Going to Holgant would have been dangerous for various reasons, but Tanfell was a place that, at best, and at some advice from some of the people in Ice Heart, was somewhere we could get lost better than we could in Holgant. In Holgant we would have stood out. So that's where I took. When we arrived, it became immediately obvious that even there we were being targeted. Hiding us was near on impossible. But I met Master Hamon while we were there, who seemed to realise that we were in need, and he offered us help. After speaking somewhat with him, we came to the realization that more than anything, the two of us being together stood out, and some of the people that were after us, just because of our heritage alone, they were making progressively more bold moves, trying to abduct us.
Okay.
All I was able to do was enlist Master Hamon's help to look after you, because with only one person to look after rather than two, he could do a better job of it. Aside from which, by running, I was able to keep them away from you. I took the first boat that I could get on. Fortunately, a couple of them followed on. The fighting was rather intense, and I wasn't exactly trained for it. A few of the people on the boat were from here, and they were trained, and with their sense of honour the way it is, they certainly weren't going to let two people abduct a young boy. Well, not young, but you know what I mean. They weren't going to let someone abduct someone with no obviously good reason, especially with the fear that I was experiencing. And unfortunately, they killed several of that boat's crew, and they caused injury to me and some of my Montaigne defenders, and unfortunately both of them died. Some of the crew were injured enough that they couldn't really crew the ship properly, and the ship ended up having to drift. He sort of starts to get a little bit emotional at this point, because it obviously seems like quite a painful memory. We did best them in the end, but they seemed driven to abduct me, and I don't know why. But after the ship had drifted for some time, luckily the ship crashed on Montaigne soil, and a couple of people were nice enough to help me make my way to here, to Siltai. And once I was here, there was very little more I could do. I was exhausted. I was starving. I was injured, and I was rather lucky because people from Fukusaka Castle took me in, and they looked after me, and they helped nurse me back to health. And I stayed on for a little while to help, and I signed on for the guard. But after some training, I apparently took to some of the combat rather well, especially the way they teach combat here. I think the style agreed with me more than more Western fighting styles. And the Shogun took something of a liking to me, and he made me his apprentice. I've been living here ever since, trying to repay the debt of my life that they gave me back. As much as I've wanted to try and find you, Hamon promised that he wouldn't keep you in Tanfell for too long, and after a couple of years I just didn't think there'd be any point going back. It would be more dangerous for me to go back than it would anything else. And I felt somewhat honour bound to repay my debt to Fukusaka Castle and its inhabitants. This isn't the only scar that I have from that time.
It seems we both have new scars.
I'm not surprised. You were always more adept at picking them up.
Only because you got me in the trouble in the first place. Well, my story isn't really that much one. After you vanished, I was stuck there looking for you. Master Hamon, he trained me up, taught me to defend myself, taught me in the ways that he fought, and once I was strong enough to go on my own, I set off looking for you.
I'm sorry I made it so hard. It wasn't exactly by choice.
Yeah, I made it to Tamfell. Difficult to get back on there. Went to a little town to get a bed for the night before carrying on looking, and ran into those guys.
Oh, based on the job they did delivering the Empress's robe, it looks like they're a good group.
They are, yeah. So yeah, we this all happened was really quite insane, to be honest with you. We went from helping a small village defend themselves from goblins and things to ending up in Obsidia with the heads there, staying there for a while, training.
Can't say I've been to Obsidia myself. What was it like?
Big.
Do any of the stories do it justice?
Not really. You know the story of the wall and how, even trying to climb it would be suicide? Yeah, that doesn't really match up. It's bigger. So stayed there for a while and met some interesting people. I became a Lycan.
Takes a minute sort of not quite understanding.
I chose it. I Lycan. I'm a were-lion.
Is that like a werewolf?
But a lion, as per our family crest.
I always thought that werewolves were bad.
Only if they choose to be. I chose to take on this curse so that I could avenge our family, because I'm not strong enough to do it without it.
Just try not to let vengeance take everything over.
It's difficult when you lost everything.
Guess we don't really know what we've lost yet.
Sort of scared to go back.
You aren't the only one.
Yeah.
How about I show you to the guest houses so that you can freshen yourself up and make yourself comfortable?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So you sort of notice that you've been sort of walking through some of the courtyards a little bit, and while you're sure you're not too far away from where the gate was, it's like you don't sort of remember getting to the point you've gotten to. He sort of walks you back towards where the gate was and goes straight past it and carries on, and shows you to the guest houses where you can see that Captain Yuki's outside sort of waiting. She sort of gives a little bow to you guys as you turn up. He sort of bows politely back to her.
Yeah.
So these are the guest houses. This one has been allocated for you all while you're here. Please feel free to take any room that you wish. I believe there's 12 inside, and it'll only be your group in here.
Okay. Are you going to get more comfortable, or are you going to stay in that?
Now that I'm a little bit less worried about your reaction, I may wear something less stiff. He sort of nods to you as you sort of head in.
Yeah.
He sort of nods to Yuki. He sort of smiles and nods back. And he heads back off towards the main castle.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go to a room, not going in any particular direction. So if it's already got someone in, I'm just like, sorry.
Yeah, just like hi.
Based on the paper walls, you can actually hear when someone's in that particular room. So you can sort of tell when a room's occupied even without having to go in.
Yeah.
So you can easily find one that's unoccupied, of which there are still 8 unoccupied rooms.
Yeah.
So
I'm just gonna go in one and like literally just flop for a
roll me
minute.
intelligence.
Ooh, intelligence. 4.
You can't work out how to tie the kimono.
Ah.
You're actually not sure how this works. Because like there's quite a big piece of fabric with the kimono, but like the kimono doesn't keep itself closed and it hasn't got any buttons or hooks, but it's just got this long piece of fabric and you're sort of
Yeah. It's like, it's this. It's like.
So I
you get into a
flop
room.
for a minute, and I'm like, like just taking a minute to take in what's actually going on right now, because it's a lot. Like after a minute, I'll get up, start taking my armor off, start sorting myself out, open like something to try and find clothes.
Yeah, so you open the cupboard and you find 5 sets of male and 5 sets of female kimonos.
Find one that sort of, fits.
Yeah, there's a female one that fits you. In fact, all of them would fit you. These kimonos are actually fairly loose fitting, so they're bigger than they'd need to be, regardless of your size.
I'm gonna try and put it on, probably fairly
roll
miserably.
mobility.
Mobility.
Yeah.
There isn't mobility. So
So
what would you go that off?
you are a noble, so you've got sort of noble things. Basically, do me intelligence plus your proficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what one might generally fit, but
18.
Yeah, you can work it out. You've been taught a few customs from a few different places, and this is one of the ones you were taught.
Cool.
Basically, like your parents had a bit of a time when you were a bit younger, and they were actually quite interested in the fashion of Montai. So you've actually owned a couple of these before.
Cool.
So you know how to tie them.
Yeah, quick, throw it on.
sort
myself out.
it's one of these.
Yeah.
Sort out my hair.
You're less sure about how to do the chopstick thing.
Yeah, I'm like, Mum always did this. Never had to do it myself. Mum always did this.
Yeah. You're not really sure how to do the chopstick thing, but you sort of make a bit of a mental note to ask someone.
No, I'm literally gonna as I try and figure it out myself. I'm just gonna no. Open the door. Go out a bit. Captain.
Okay. So based on how quiet that was,
Yeah.
you don't get any response.
Captain.
Still don't get much of a response. She is outside.
Go place her. So I'm
Captain?
basically peering around
Captain.
I'm gonna step out really obviously a bit uncomfortable because sorry, could you help me with my hat? not really sure how to do it
yes,
properly.
certainly can. You've tried to use the chopsticks.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with your tying. Most people don't know how to tie those.
Oh, my mother taught me when we were younger. I've worn a couple, but she always did my hair. Never had to do it myself.
So you've got the chopsticks now. So she takes hers out and her hair sort of falls down, and she sort of shows you how to do it. And she does the
one underneath, spin it round, and
round,
the other
twist,
one through.
Pushes the other one in.
Lizzie knows how to do it, annoyingly.
Yeah. So she does that and shows you, and she sort of does it slowly enough that you can see what she's doing.
Yeah.
Then she does it.
Okay.
It's just a simple
give it a try.
And so you do it without too much hassle. There's a couple of hairs out of place, as there generally are whenever you do it. Even a couple of Yukis are out of place. But it's
impossible to get right.
It's
perfect.
Yeah,
it's
impossible to get perfect. But nonetheless, you still manage it, and you're still there, and it looks presentable. I mean, I can tell you chat.
Come on, do this. Oh, slightly better, 13.
You sort of tie it. You assume it must go around your waist, based on how wide it is. You think maybe a little bit maybe a cummerbund.
It's like
sort of
possibly.
You sort of put it round, and then it's still long enough to extend out the front. So you just sort of you sort of let go, and they sort of flap down.
So it's like,
ha ha!
yeah, it's like,
That's got to be it.
yeah, this is got to be good, right? Maybe.
Which point, you sort of, when you sort of feel you're presentable and such, you head outside as well, I take it?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Can I see him walking over?
Oh yeah,
because
both you and Yuki see him walking forward.
Yeah, because
How
I'm going to be.
badly has he messed it up?
It's definitely not tied right. He's fastened the kimono in place, but it's not tied right. It's not how you tie a kimono.
Oh yeah, and I'm also going to be walking a little awkwardly because of the sandals.
You've done it wrong.
I have.
Turn around.
You see sort of Yuki there. She nods in agreement.
Turn around.
Right, as you look at me, as I'm perfectly done.
So, how do you do that?
I've done this before. As I hold it close so I don't see.
You sort of says, actually, you might be better to hold it close while she ties.
Okay.
Hold. There we go. As I fasten it for you.
As I'm sort of trying to look at the same time of how you're doing it.
Fasten it.
You sort of as she's doing it, you sort of go.
That's why I fucked up.
Right. That's confusing. So he gives a smile. After a couple of minutes, a couple of the others come out, and about the same sort of time, Rowan comes back in a kimono rather than his full armour. He's still got his sword at his side, and sort of now that you sort of think about it without the shock of everything going, you look at Yuki and you see that she's actually got her sword at her side as well. Which one's Yuki says, right, well, Ro and I will take you to the market if you like. If that's what you'd like to do. Is there anything in particular you'd like to look for? Macario sort of pipes up a little and says, have you got a library? And Yuki says, we do have a library here in the castle. One of the guards should be able to show you where they are. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Once there, she won't ever leave.
I mean, that's her choice. She's a guest. Sort of as you're sort of walking back towards where the main gate and the gate of the castle is, she calls over again in what you can only assume is Montaigne, cough Japanese, to one of the guards at the door, and he sort of stands to attention a little bit, and she says a few words to him again, still in Montaigne, and he sort of bows his head in a both a respectful way and an acknowledgement. Which point he says, yes, if you would like to follow me, I will show you where the library is. At which point Macario sort of gets rather excited and starts following him, chattering all the way, asking him various questions.
Bounding off. And
Yes, I know. Macario 101. You know, there is 101 questions that she will ask in 101 seconds.
At which point, you guys are led back down towards the main castle gate. Have you guys left weapons? Have you taken weapons?
Taken myself.
Taken weapons?
And he was like, I'm not taking...
You are a weapon!
Yeah, I am. I can't leave myself behind.
Well, so am I, but that's not the point. You could have stayed at the,
Just hang myself up in the closet. It's like, sorry, I can't go. But no, so I'm not going to take my axe or anything because, if anything does come up, I can use my fist. But, I'm under the impression that nothing should go wrong today.
Yeah.
So
I've got my sword, but that's because I don't feel comfortable without it.
So Zach, while having sort of comfied himself up a little bit, is still in his gear. He hasn't opted to wear the kimonos and such.
That I believe.
Hoff sort of
there wasn't a kimono short enough.
Hoff was realising that they hadn't quite catered for his size because they didn't necessarily expect it. Not that they've got any issue, just didn't expect it.
Yeah.
Has also opted for his own comfortable clothing that fits. But they walk you towards the gate, at which point a couple of the guards on the inside, there's not as many on the inside, there's only sort of 3 there, looks like 1 for messaging or orders and 2 for the actual gate. The one who's not either side of the gate, they look more relaxed on the inside than the ones outside. But the one in sort of the middle calls over in Montaigne to the other side, you assume letting them know the gate's opening. At which point they start opening the gate and they let you all through. Again, they only sort of really open it wide enough for one person at a time. It looks like more of a safety thing than anything else. And they let you all out. At which point you says, right, well, as I imagine you probably came up the main thoroughfare, that's where we'll be going down. If you'd like to come with me, I'll show you where it is.
Thank you.
So you all start heading off down, and you pass a few things and sort of you sort of notice there's one of the inns there is there. They serve some Montaigne wines and such. Zach goes, well, I'm stopping here. Zach heads off into so if Yuki stops him and says, "Will he be okay?"
I'm sure he'll be fine.
Oh, I believe the guards have been plenty appraised as to the fact that you are guests, so they should recognise him or have a description of him for him to come back in if he needs to be.
If not, he has some proof of who he is.
That is good. So they carry on walking. Roll me insight checks.
Ooh. Is that? That's number Wang.
As a number.
So 25.
10.
Okay, you're a little bit oblivious. You're sort of kind of sightseeing a little
I'm
bit. You're
still
very
kind of in shock and sightseeing at the same time. So
based on the fact that you have had wiser people than you tell you and teach you and inform you and such, you notice that Rowan and Yuki are walking quite close together. They're not holding hands, they're not super close that they're touching, but they're fairly close together, and whenever one of them looks at each other, you can see a softening of the eyes. You can see, and you can tell very clearly that they both are quite fond of each other. You don't really know the specifics of the relationship because you can sort of just see that there is something there. And it's not, and you can definitely tell that it's not a lustful thing. It's very intimate looks. It's very caring, attitudes. So you can see there's something there, but you're not really sure the extent or exactly what's going on.
Yes. Yeah. So where are you walking, by the way?
I'm probably not far behind them, so we're probably quite close to each other. As I'm just like.
Yeah, so like overall, she's actually quite close to her brother. You sort of got this idea that maybe she doesn't want to let him go after finding him again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's a weird love triangle-ish thing, and I'm here.
You get a very lost little sister vibe from her at the moment. Like
if I could, I'd be holding his hand right now, sort of thing.
And there's no love triangle going on with that side of things. You can tell it's a very familial thing. It's a sister who loves her brother.
Oh yeah, no, but yeah, there's there's that love, and then there's love.
But
there's family and then relationship.
But either way, to you, this is all clear as day. To you have no fucking clue, and you're just sort of.
I'm oblivious.
Yeah, other than being a little bit shocked and a little bit sort of, wanting to make sure that you don't.
They
lose
move
him.
forward a bit. I, sort of scurry a little bit to catch up because I got lost looking at something. I'm like, oh shit, they've moved.
Yeah,
catch up.
But you are also getting quite caught up in some of the interesting things that they're showing you, and and they tell you a little bit about some of the architecture and things, which you don't really retain a lot of the information because it's architecture. It's not a conversation most people enjoy, but they do tell you sort of a lot of the architecture is quite old. It's kept the same sort of designs and styles for centuries at this point. But more than that, you don't really pick a lot up because you're sort of.
Yeah, so I'm gonna sort of slyly move towards you. Well,
it's not going to be sly because I'm not going to notice until you're right next to me. I'm like, oh hi.
But no, so basically I'm not gonna, by slyly I'm not gonna kind of be sort of sneaky about it. I'm just kind of gonna go and sort of direct my path, so I sort of slowly go towards her, if you know what I mean. So it's not like I'm gonna immediately turn and make a beeline straight towards you, because that would be weird. But yeah, so I'm just gonna slowly approach you to the side. Yeah, so I'm assuming your talk went well.
As well as can be after not seeing your twin brother for what was it, like 4 years?
About 3.
For 3 years, and all you've been doing is looking for them.
I mean, obviously I'm not pretending to know an awful lot, as you didn't say a huge amount about it, but I feel that he had good intentions behind what he did.
Let's not go into that now.
So, they look happy. As I gesture towards them.
You might have missed that bit. He literally just goes, well, they look happy.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about that.
So, because your insight before was quite good, so Rowan doesn't seem to really have noticed you guys talking, but you do notice a little bit of a cocked ear from Yuki as you guys are talking. Nothing like I'm eavesdropping, but more that she's
overheard.
She's sort of overheard some of the conversation.
What do you mean? Yeah, they look happy. What do you mean?
Yeah, so, and you haven't noticed?
What?
Ah.
What?
I feel it's something, so I'm going to be whispering, so I feel it's something on the down low, but they seem happy together.
Wait, what? What?
Exchange glances, the change of expression. It's very subtle.
I'm really not being quiet right now. I'm like, what?
Yes, I quiet
so
down, and then you're like, what?
At this point,
both here.
At this point, sort of Rowan turns around and says, "Is anything wrong?" Completely oblivious as to what you're talking about.
I'm gonna do the, blunt little sister. Well, so I'm gonna do the blunt sister thing of. So you two, huh?
It's like, oh no, I was hoping this was going to go down better.
Don't bring such matters up in such a public area. That public affection is not exactly commonplace here.
Translator.
I will talk to you later. At this point, you sort of you notice
Yuki's blushing a bit.
Her delicate features have reddened a little bit. Not super obvious like beacon of red, but she's reddened a little bit on the face and just.
And so she's melted. Yeah, it's like, well, I thought that was going to be a little bit more subtle.
But if you hadn't noticed, we are at the market now.
Of course, thank you.
Which point Hoff goes, ooh, and goes off and has a look at a couple of the stalls and starts looking at things.
So you mentioned before, like there was maybe like 1 or 2 stalls, that are weapons possibly, but the majority of them were like trinkets and.
So, with that, so you're looking around and Captain Yuki pipes up a little bit. So weapons are legal within the city walls. Many don't feel the need to hold them, or they trust their guards to protect them. We don't get as many adventurers through as I imagine some of the places in Valir would. So weapons are a little bit less commonplace here. You'll find a healthier trade in divine-based potions because, it's a religious city. You'll also find a lot of religious icons and iconography among the things you can buy. There'll be a lot of foods and such, given that we produce a lot. Magical things you'll find less than you will more divine, spiritual.
No, that's understandable. I would therefore assume the lands around here are generally a lot more safe than they are in Valir.
I imagine the religious unity does tend to help somewhat towards that. Many of Montai's residents are devout followers of Bahamut, ourselves included. She sort of says that she pulls out a chain from just under the front of the kimono that's got an icon of Bahamut on the end of it. Rowan actually also pulls one out as well, showing his icon, and they sort of put them back. I definitely found that the religious pursuit of belief under the Lord Bahamut actually benefited me quite greatly.
That's good to know. Yes. Is there anything other than obviously Bahamut? Is there anything that Montai is very, very well known for, or perhaps Siltai specifically?
Being a holy centre of worship is probably the main thing. There's several religious sites around the city. Many actually come and pay supplication to the Fukasaku Castle gates. I don't imagine you'd have missed the giant platinum gate statue of Bahamut.
It'd be very difficult to miss.
But there are some of the other religious sites around are not necessarily for Bahamut himself. There's some for his pantheon, which includes many of the good gods and deities underneath him. You'll find many a name of a good and revered deity under his purview. There's too many to list them all.
I think what Carson was also asking was food-related subjects. He is quite a chef. Interesting to learn new things.
If I'm to be totally honest, aside from a few simple but popular dishes, Siltai itself isn't really known for its culinary progress. I do hear that Cassagor is more that sort of place. Although, if you do ever visit any more of Montai, Charbella has quite a considering it's a city of smithing. It also has a very, very strong culinary following there. I think based on the fact that they do lava smoked food.
Lava smoked food. That is intriguing. So, well, for starters, since we got here, we've noticed like new fruits and and such that we generally don't get in Valir.
No, there are certainly various vegetables and a few fruits that would grow here that would never be able to grow somewhere like Valir due to its climates and things.
Like bananas. I love
Bananas are still quite rare even here, actually. The crops for those. Sorry, the banana trees are actually not the sturdiest. They're quite delicate, actually. And if you're not careful, you can ruin a harvest easily.
Yeah, so well, I'll certainly keep my eyes open and see if there's anything of interest. I'm sure there will be at least one thing.
Oh, certainly. If there are any foods and you wish to try any cooking of them, we can pick those up for you. It's no trouble, and food isn't the most expensive. Here.
I'm just expecting that you're going to be like, I want to try this and this and this and this, and there's just going to sit
Carson,
there with like 50 meals around you, like, I can do this.
Carson, it's early hours of the morning, but I need more bananas.
It's more likely lunchtime now.
Oh yeah, no.
It was late morning when we got there.
Based on the travelling time, it's probably a little bit gone midday at this point.
Food would be nice. I'm hungry.
Yeah, so well, maybe we can find some more of the local cuisine that we can try.
What would you recommend?
Okay, so they take you round one of the particular market areas where it's less just produce and there's a lot of people cooking some foods. You find a few places of various fried noodles and vegetables and things. You find a few that have a few fried meats and such there as well. You find a couple of places that are sort of doing some oven baked such and various things there. You find a few boiling a few things with their ovens and such. Not
so
in the ovens, but you know what I mean. But there's a few different options, and most of them have your typical Oriental, twists and differences on them.
I'm literally just going to be like to Rowan, so what's your favourite?
So Rowan's already stepped over to one where you can hear the healthy sound of sizzling, and he orders 2 bowls of fried noodles with fried pork. I would highly recommend this. It's a good option. Again, this is on us. But I say if you care to try, pork fried ramen is very nice. And he sort of hands the second bowl to Yuki. And she sort of politely takes it and bows her head to him. I do recommend this. Again, as I said, it's on us. You are our guests. Such things as food is no object.
Yeah, well, I would certainly love to try one. What about you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you each get a bowl of the pork fried ramen as well. You don't find any forks.
So
there's no forks anywhere, and you can already see that Yuki and Rowan are eating with a pair of sticks. So,
yeah, just
are you guys going to do that thing of let's try it anyway, or are you going to outright ask how to do it?
I'm going to outright ask.
Okay.
Well, I'm just going to look and observe for a minute, and then go, I can do this.
So he starts sort of instructing you a little bit and showing you how they work. So the eating food here is a little bit more elegant than forks and jabbing and things. And he shows you effectively how to use the chopsticks. And
I'm still not going to get... Lizzie in real life has been shown like so many times, but I still cannot get how to use chopsticks at all. So I'm going to fail miserably.
Yeah. But he sort of shows you how it works, and he starts to try to help you and sort of position your hand and such. And you're struggling with the manual dexterity of it.
Yeah.
A little bit. If you're going to try and
I'm not
based on his
dexy.
instruction and showing rather than outright asking and him helping you, roll an intelligence.
Yeah. I am like 0 on dex. This ain't my jam. It was a no.
Yeah, how about no?
You're gonna fucking like you're trying and just like, wait, how does he what? You can actually roll intelligence at advantage.
Okay.
He's directly showing you and helping you with your hand positions and such.
Yes, how does this even work?
Oh, well, that's alright. 17.
Okay, so you are actually able to eat the meal. It's not pretty, it's not effective, and some of the bites are a little bit smaller than you'd like, but you are able to actually use the
I am
chopsticks.
getting food in my mouth.
Yeah, you're very much a lot of the time you're cheating a little bit, and where you see that they hold the bowls up and eat,
I'm basically like here.
you're actually more or less holding the bowl to your mouth and just poking the noodles into your mouth half the time. You do get a few where you properly pick them up and get them in. Again, not pretty, but most of the time it's just.
Yeah, with my role, it's more like I'm getting close to stabbing myself in the eye, dropping the sticks.
So at that point, sort of Yuki noticing your abject failure,
Complete utter failure.
would you like some assistance in using them?
Yes, please.
Roll
As I'm just there like-
advantage.
Woo!
Fuck it.
One extreme to the other.
2 or 20.
It's a good job it's at advantage, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Not
21.
disadvantage.
So based on the fact that you do a lot of cooking, you work with a lot of food, when she shows you and actually sort of helps you position them in your hand properly, because you weren't positioning them properly, which is one of the reasons you kept dropping one of them, and like one of them kept flicking and twisting itself around your hand and such. When she actually shows you how to position them, you actually start. Oh, and it clicks into place. It's like, oh, that's how it works, and you start eating with them with no issue after that.
So you look fine, and I'm just there like.
Yeah, it's like So you look up going, hey, he looks stupid. Wait, what?
Yeah.
At least I'm somewhat eating right.
So smiles a little bit.
Oh.
So other than the food and eating, is there anything else in particular you're after in the market or want to do in the market?
I'm after a trinket.
He's after a trinket.
Yeah,
Okay.
to add to my bag. Because
Okay. So most of the trinkets you find
Are of Bahamut.
are religious Bahamut icons.
yeah, that's probably what I was expecting, especially when the captain and Rowan ended up pulling them out. I'm just like, that's probably what I'm looking for.
What you actually find is a lot of the things like necklaces or things you'd hang off of something. You don't really find actual little mini dragons, because you get the feeling based on a lot of the icons and a lot of the things that you're seeing sold, actually wandering around with one dangling around might come across as rude or is just not done. You see the odd what looks like a dragon wing. You see the odd sort of what kind of looks like a dragon eye, you would guess. Again, cast in platinum. There's quite a lot that are just the symbol of Bahamut. There's a couple that look like teeth, which you would only assume are dragon teeth. Again, they're not actual dragon teeth, but they're platinum cast to
Look like.
Yeah. I think as a symbol of respect, I think I'm actually going to go for the an actual symbol of Bahamut rather than something that might be construed as sort of a cheap knockoff, if you know what I mean. It feels better to get an actual symbol.
Because even while you're wandering around the market, here and there you see the odd person who doesn't look like they're necessarily from there. Again, there's not really much in the way of outlanders. Like you guys are the only ones. You see a few people that you think are probably from somewhere else in Montai, for example, and you see quite a few symbols and things exchange hands, and you see a lot of trinkets being bought. I mean, they do seem to have quite a lot of them.
They've stockpiled.
And you see a lot of the wings, the eyes, and the teeth going, because it's looks like almost like you have a piece of Bahamut to protect you is your best guess as to the way that works. Yeah. Whereas carrying the entirety of him with you, and especially with some of the conversation you actually hear around, carrying the entire image of Bahamut on your person like that is like professing that you're so important that Bahamut himself will protect you above others, which is why people don't have a full dragon statue or necklace or anything like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, because that's more more of a garish site, I suppose. I'd imagine.
As you are talking and as you're sort of looking at things, Rowan sort of sort of says, "Oh, so if you were wondering, the Eye Bahamut symbols that he watches over you. The tooth symbolises that he protects you always, and the wing symbolises that he is with you wherever you go."
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Obviously, the symbol is a symbol of devotion and iconography, but each one has its own place within belief.
So, thank you for explaining that. That actually that helps a lot. It's like,
I'm just looking at the pretty shiny things.
You do see quite a lot of potions around.
Based on that, I might actually go and find a wing.
Yeah, there are plenty of them around.
For a traveller, it makes sense.
Yeah. 'Cause where is my?
I'm just going to have a look at different stalls, just see what there is and things like that.
You see,
scurry from one to another.
A couple of stalls that have a few more trinkets. A couple that have blessed trinkets. The blessed trinkets are quite expensive because they look like actually protective blessed trinkets.
Yeah.
That one will set you back a gold piece.
Oh, that's fine. I'll mark that off in a second.
You find there's a lot of curing potions because a lot of curing potions are made with either obviously alchemical ingredients or the actual solution itself is blessed with divine magic.
Yeah.
When you look across a couple of the weapon stores, you see a lot of fairly basic but very Eastern weapons. But there's one thing that actually really catches your eye because it's a longsword. It's not a katana. It's not an Eastern style weapon. It's a Western style longsword.
Ooh.
And the price tag on it is fucking huge. And you look at the writing next to it and you can't read the symbols. There's a lot of like weird sort of lines and it's Japanese hiragana.
But I'm literally stood at the stall just staring at this weapon like.
But even based on things, you can see the many zeros next to it, and obviously the person there is looking and just watching. They're not pushing you. They're not asking you questions. They're just sort of watching you browse. And Yuki steps over and says, "So according to the label, this is a holy avenger."
Oh.
As I like look at my weapon.
Yeah.
I look at my weapon.
To
look
the
at
person
that
of
weapon.
magic who doesn't know.
Yeah, I look at my weapon. I look at it. Look back at my weapon. Disappointedly looking at mine. Comparatively, it's shit. Just like, how many zeros is that?
Bear with me because I'm just checking.
The price is loading.
Buffering, dear, buffering.
But it is.
We're on an online game.
Yeah.
1 second.
Pardon me.
So, there are several zeros. It is 120,000 gold pieces. And it is the single most expensive thing that you find in the entire market.
Like, I'm properly looking at it, like, eyes longing for this sword, but I'm just like, I have that much money.
I need to acquire a house
Really?
and sell it.
That is what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's so pretty.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. If it'll work, feel free to go and hold it up to the camera.
If I can actually get up.
Yeah, but it stands out. The back.
No, there we go.
Great. But yeah,
Look at that. Perfect.
But it stands out so obviously among the list of Eastern weapons.
It's so beautiful.
But that is more money than we will
Have
have.
seen
That is-
combined.
That is more money than I'm probably worth.
So,
Yeah. That is probably more money than my entire family is worth.
it's like, yeah, that's.
As I just look up at you like,
I mean, it's really nice.
I know.
But unfortunately, the price is not
I
that
know.
nice.
I look up and Rowan's probably just there like, typical. Always finding the most expensive thing and wanting it.
You. In fact, roll me an insight check.
Oh, that's better than the last one. 21.
So, when you sort of look over at Rowan, you see a look of familiarity on his face with it. You have the feeling that this may have been here for a little while and not sold because of the hefty price. You have the feeling Rowan may also have had his eyes on it.
It's very fitting to our heritage.
Noticing that you sort of notice that he seems to be eyeing it as well. It is an expensive weapon, very beautifully crafted, and unfortunately only really works in the hands of a paladin as well.
Yeah. I'm not.
Unfortunately, one of the reasons that despite wanting it, the price has made it virtually impossible. Despite being the apprentice to the Shogun, something like that is still a little bit out of
range. Yeah.
Have the skills to use it, just not the money. He sort of looks longingly at it.
Just carry on like.
Yeah, oh, look at that one. That's lovely and also much more affordable.
As you say that, looking at a weapon, I'm just like.
Yeah, so like you look down at one of the katanas. Very nice craftsmanship. Not mastercrafted or anything, just pretty. And like you see one of the katanas there for 20 gold pieces. Again, very nice. Good colouring, interesting binding on the handle that you haven't seen on a Western weapon before. Affordable.
Not for me, it ain't. I've only got 9 gold.
You see another slightly more expensive one that's got a very red theme to its scabbard and its binding, which has a price tag of what looks like 5,000 gold.
Yeah, so that went up in price.
You can't read the thing, but again, looking at it, and because Rowan's sort of there at the stand with you, he sort of leans over a little bit. It's a flame sword.
Ah, that explains the red.
It's enchanted for fire.
I wouldn't be able to use that anyway.
What, a flame longsword? Yeah, you would.
Not with my right. It wouldn't stack.
Wouldn't it?
Cold and flame? Don't think it would stack.
Magical effects. Who the fuck knows how it works?
I'll have to actually check that, see if my right can work on it.
Probably.
I
don't know off the top of my head if it does prevent you using it.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to use the longswords anyway because it's not in my weapon list.
No.
Right damage is considered magical. I probably wouldn't be able to stack a magical on a magical. We'd actually have to properly look at it.
But it's something we'll look at. Either way though, is there anything else that you guys are buying other than sort of trinkets and some food?
Is that,
Not really,
yeah, to be honest, no. I can't think of anything else in particular.
Are you after any more ingredients for cooking and such?
I mean, I could, but where is the rest of my ingredients? That's what I've been trying to find because I had a small list of stuff and I can't find it.
You had rice and gourd and...
A lot of the rice was eaten on your way because
Oh.
it was enough to get you guys up to the castle with the number of you that you had. So a lot of that supply is gone. You still got 2 of the bananas.
Yeah.
Because you were more careful with them. But
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I do not know what I did with
There
it.
aren't any kiwis left because I would have eaten them.
Most of that stuff that you got from the vendor outside Aki Harbour is actually gone because you had to use a lot of it on the way.
I mean, that's potentially why I didn't write it down properly because I knew it was going to get
It was basically.
We still have
pretty
2
much enough
bananas. We won't have any kiwis because they'd be gone. I ate those.
But yeah, in that case, basically, I'm just going to go and find some more I'm going to call them exotic fruits and vegetables and such. To,
So you go across
As you
a few of the
start wandering,
stands.
I'm like, can you get me more kiwis, please?
If they've got any, then yes, I will.
So you go across the stand and you find a lot of all of these different things. And as you're going across, Rowan sort of comes along with you, and as you're sort of looking at things and sort of checking prices and checking what you want to buy, as you finalise things, he exchanges a few words with each of the vendors, and they give you a sack worth of each of the thing that you asked for.
So he's like, oh dear, we're going to have a train going back.
At which point, Yuki's sort of, who's with you, still going across a couple of the other stands, so shakes her head a little bit, looking over, steps over to one of the nearby guards, has a few words with him. He runs off, and then comes back and stands near the vendors that you've been past and you're being given the sacks for. At which point, Rowan's taking them and placing them near that guard who's sort of keeping an eye on them all. And after a little while, you realise that there's quite a lot of sacks of various different things.
Yeah, I was like, that is quite a bit.
At which point, after you've sort of finished deciding the things you like, as you're just about to sort of stop, you do actually lay eyes on a few more bananas.
Yeah, so
There is a bunch of 4 bananas. That's all the bananas you've seen in the market.
yeah, so
Bananas!
I'm gonna get the bananas, but I'm just like, if those are the only ones, then I'm gonna rob the chance from anybody else of getting them. So, I'll fine. I'll just take the bunch.
So, the bunch of bananas, you gather by the quick conversation that Rowan has, the bunch of bananas alone are 30 gold. And that's for 4 bananas. But again, he settles it up, and she doesn't bother putting them in a sack or anything. She just sort of offers them out, and based on the fact that that's not actually a lot of stuff, he just sort of gestures to you to take them.
Yeah, so, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'll now take those. Alright, so how much do I owe you?
You don't, as I said, food here is not a problem, and you are our guests.
Oh, well, thank you.
We can't necessarily be forking out for such things as the things on the weapon stand, because those prices are considerable. Most of this, and he sort of gestures to the large amount of sacks next to the guard. Most of this would barely set us back a few gold.
Yeah,
Food prices here are lower than they would be in Berlin.
oh yes, I remember when.
I've been busy looking. Sorry, I'm gonna just bimble over. Did you get some kiwis?
Yes, there should be at least one sack of them over there, and you'll see a pile.
So, while you're sort of talking, you notice that Rowan's exchanging a few words with the guard who stood next to the large number of sacks. He steps back over and says, "They'll be delivered up to the castle, and they'll be there within the hour."
Yes, well, thank you very much. And bananas.
You know, kid candy store eyes. Just the.
These appear to be the only ones in the market.
I had an amazing thought on the journey of what we could do with some bananas, right?
Oh.
You know sugar?
Yes.
You heat it up.
Nah.
When you heat it up, it goes into that brownie. Don't know the name. That really sweet thing. Coat a banana in that.
Have to experiment. It's part of the reason why I got the food, but it is absolutely amazing. Rowan says it would barely set it back a few gold for all those sacks.
Despite the fact that there are a substantial number of sacks, and there's quite a lot of them there, you've noticed that none of the stalls look really any less full for the amount of food that you've taken away from them. There is a lot of food available.
Oh yeah, so
That's
back in Valir, I wouldn't be surprised if that,
hundreds.
exactly. It's
We are living on the wrong continent.
yeah, so but yeah, so obviously after that, there's nothing else I want to buy. So at this point, I'd probably suggest heading back.
Yeah.
So at that point, Captain Yuki and Rowan then escort you back up towards where the castle is. Again, they point a few interesting things out and they start telling you a little bit about a few of the things in the city. But again, a lot of it's the type of thing where you almost history class zone out.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, it's interesting,
But that's pretty.
Yeah, and you see a couple of like the cherry blossom trees and things, and you actually think, oh, it's really pretty. And they sort of they mention a little bit in passing about how some people come at specific times of fall to watch the cherry blossoms fall off the trees and things. And then she sort of goes off and again talks a little bit about some of the architecture around it and sort of zone out again. And they walk you up. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
As you guys are getting back up to the castle.
Yeah. That's cool. Perfect. So thank you very much, guys. Hope you've enjoyed. So got a little bit of announcement because it was heavily discussed before, which is part of the reason why we're running a bit late. But this is actually going to be the last time streaming our tabletop sessions. Purely because it's just partly not getting the attention that it's just not getting anywhere. So rather than continue doing it this way, there's a couple of other good reasons for it as well. But we're going to record the sessions and then purely put them onto YouTube after looked at them, properly cut out any of the chaff. Just generally it would just make them a lot better.
That's fucking about.
Yes. That way as well. We're not so stressed about starting on time and not worrying about what we're saying. Then I can if it's something really bad, I can just cut it out. Cut it.
Yeah, and not so formal in some ways as well.
It just overall it just seems like a better idea. Better sessions. Hopefully, more interesting things. That we can try and see how they go. And obviously, if it's not really good, then it probably won't go on YouTube. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
But otherwise, we're still going to be live, on Saturday, me and Cassus. So
We are.
Join us for more of the story of God of War. So we're still enjoying that, and hopefully, we'll see how much further we've got left.
I think we should be getting progressively closer to the end. I think.
Yeah, but it's slightly tricked us before, so we're like, seems we're nearly there. No, we're not. No,
But we'll see.
Oh yeah. So in that case, thank you very much again, guys, and we'll see some of you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.